on computer. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Aya. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How about you?
Doing good. It's just like a quiet Memorial Day weekend, although I hear it's busy other places, but I haven't really gone out except on Saturday when it was crazy at Walmart.
Yeah, I've stayed home and tried to mow the lawn.
That's good. That's very smart. Um, I don't mind shopping at night, but I'll never go on a Saturday during the day again while this continues because it's crazy. Like they were guiding people like it was Disneyland. It was just so crowded and so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I just wish we could go back to before everything went crazy. But um, something that just kind of has occurred to me from the way people are talking, about lawlessness and anarchy and whatever, is that really anarchy doesn't mean that there are no rules for behavior.
Exactly. Like, what type of an anarchist would you consider? I mean, I don't know if you're exactly an anarchist, but like, how would you explain it? Like, your school of thought on
Well, let's talk about roads and paths through the woods. So, some people showed me a picture of a path through the woods that some deer had made, and it's pretty obvious where the path is because all the deer go on that path. And so they were joking and said, oh, the deer must have put together a government because look, they built a road. And that's based on the misconception that our human roads are created by governments, and that if we didn't have a government, we couldn't have a road. And it's really the other way. So the way we actually come up with roads usually is a lot of people are going in the same direction a lot, and they could each go scurrying in different directions, but somehow or other, this particular area gets walked over a lot and other areas not as much. So after a while, people know they can follow the path because it's there. It's a habit that a lot of people have gotten into. And so that path widens. It becomes very bare of grass and rocks. And sometimes if a tree falls, people will just pick it up and lift it and put it aside. So,
yeah, like they're helping each other out. Like there wasn't any government mandate to create that road. It just happened because people were traveling that way.
right. And if they start to use a cart and bug, a cart with a horse or an ox to take things from one place to another, then that road, the path becomes more of a road because now very heavy loads are going down that same path. And after a while, sometimes people decide to pave it or to put stones there or to do other things that they feel will make it a more stable surface to pass over.
If that makes it easier to travel, there are times like when the government has done something to a road, like thinking, oh, this will be really great. Like, okay, the dirt road behind where I grew up, they thought in 1943 it'd be a great idea to pave it. Like, oh, it'll be so great. But guess what happened? It washed out.
Yeah.
So they never repaved it. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Now, there are places where it's better not to pave. There are, and every area has its own lore and its own traditions, and there are reasons why people tend to do one thing rather than another. So all of our rules about behaving, how we behave toward other people, are also like those roads that started out as a path. In other words, we didn't always know what to say to somebody, a stranger, so we decided to say hello or peace or whatever
Your greeting was. And honestly, okay, like the whole handshake thing, like I don't know, I never even really loved the handshake thing, but I was always told you needed to do that because that was considered polite. But I didn't always feel comfortable doing that.
I didn't either. I don't like touching other people.
Yeah, so I don't really care about that. Like that doesn't hurt my feelings, but then I feel like, oh, people are offended if you don't do it. But now it seems like it's the other way. I don't know.
Yeah, so it takes a very long time for a culture to build up the rules about how we behave toward other people. And when you go visit a different country, if you're a sensible person, you understand that some of the rules are going to be different from what you're used to, and you just abide by the rules because it's like going the wrong way in traffic. You don't want to do that, you know?
No, you don't. Yeah, and Americans pretend like, oh, we're so like respectful of the rules now, but remember back in the 90s, the whole Michael Fay caning thing. He went to Singapore and he was spray painting the cars, and so many people were outraged he was going to be caned, although that's what they do to everybody that does that, and then they reduced his sentence because the president got involved. But that's pretty funny because that was an instance of, oh, somebody didn't follow the rules of that country and people were outraged. But now it's gone the other way because, I don't know, with all these new ordinances and rules,
Right.
Who makes them?
So I went to Taiwan, and when I was in Taiwan, I tried to go by the rules as I understood them. I'm not saying I always understood what the rules were, but and there were other people from America and from Canada, especially these Canadians. They're very snotty, and they said, "Oh, they should make sidewalks. They should do this." They were all about how this wasn't good enough. And I said, "Look, I'm a guest in this country. I'm going to appreciate what they are offering me, and I'm going to try to live by the rules." And then they thought that I was being super liberal by doing that. So later, when I told them I believed in the death penalty for murder, they got all upset with me. And so, because they didn't understand what I was saying.
Yeah, you were living by the country's customs and rules, like you were respecting them. You weren't like, oh my God, this isn't good enough for me. Like, how dare you don't roll out the red carpet for me because I showed up today.
Right. Okay, so here's the thing. We have rules about which side of the road we should be driving on. They're different in different countries. It's very important. It totally doesn't matter which side it is, but it's very important that everybody abide by that rule because it just has to do with traffic, And there are a lot of right-of-way rules. You mentioned, for instance, that you were pretty upset with some drones. People were flying drones near a place where
firefighter.
Yeah. Okay. And then you said, well, maybe I'm not as libertarian as you or whatever. But no, I never said it was okay for anybody to fly any kind of airborne vehicle against traffic rules. I actually think traffic rules are pretty important.
Okay.
So, and we've always had those. You may not realize this, but when two vessels meet in the sea, for ages and ages, there were rules about which way you go in order not to collide with each other.
Exactly. You're totally right. I totally agree. I just wasn't sure where you stood on the drone thing. I guess that, or if that was a non-libertarian position when I felt that way. I didn't know.
Well, I think everybody should be able to fly. I don't believe in the FAA and all of that. But even when we fly, even if we didn't have any laws about flying, we still wouldn't want to collide with one another, would we?
No, of course not. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have to have some rules about who has the right of way, which way you veer if you suddenly see somebody coming at you. You can't if you don't veer a different way from the other person,
you're going to have some problems.
Yeah, right. And we all do this if we're walking on the sidewalk and there's somebody coming across. Have you ever seen any two people just go smack dab into each other?
I've never seen that. I've had one experience where this bicyclist told me he was right on the sidewalk. I don't care because I did it sometimes too. I really don't care because it feels safer and there's not as many walkers where we live. But he actually literally hit me.
Oh, no.
He said, I didn't hear him because he was saying to get out of the way. And he said, oh, it's too bad that I hit you. You just didn't get out of the way. And I'm thinking, I told him, oh, so you could have stopped and you saw me ahead. You just had to hit me. He's like, I'm in a rush. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, we have rules. And one of the rules is that somebody who's in front of you, you're not allowed to hit them. That's one of the basic rules. So you can go right, you can go left, but you should not hit another person. These are very ancient rules. You know, we
People,
didn't just come up with those.
no, definitely not. And you know, it's funny, people who, Californians, oh, we're so caring and empathetic about everybody else. They are the biggest breakers of traffic, just sensible traffic rules. Like if they need to get somewhere and they didn't leave on time, they don't care. They'll break the traffic law if they don't see a cop. If they don't think they're going to get a ticket, oh my, like there's so much speeding.
And I think, you know, I think that the people right now who are teaching teenagers how to drive are not teaching them the correct traffic rules.
No,
So, for
they teach
instance,
them nothing. Nothing. You don't even take it in school. It's funny. It's such a joke.
well, I mean, even the examiners, a teenager that I know was
Yeah.
taking the driver's test, you know, the practical test where you drive.
Yeah.
And she was being very careful. So, you know, as at an intersection, you know, in a small neighborhood, this wasn't on the highway or anything, but in a small neighborhood, she was approaching an intersection and she kind of slowed down so she could look either way to see if there was any traffic coming.
Mhm.
And the person testing her said, "You can't slow down like that. You nearly stopped. What if somebody were behind you and they hit you?" Well, the first rule of traffic is if somebody's behind you and they see that you've slowed down, they need to slow down.
Yeah.
You have the right of way if you're ahead of them. They do not have the right of way. And you're supposed to worry about the people that you might hit. And the people behind you are supposed to worry about not hitting you. That's
Exactly.
a basic rule.
Very good. Maybe you should do traffic lessons. You would be better at it than a lot of people. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I just think that maybe because there are laws about this and it's no longer just a matter of common sense and custom, that people have gotten into their heads that there's no such thing as right of way. But
No,
right of way existed long before any of these man-made traffic laws.
okay. That makes good sense. Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and all the rules about what we do in the store, the normal rules, you know, like you don't just pick something up and go away. That's stealing, right? We all
Yeah,
know
no, you
that,
can't do that.
right? And so, that is the law in every country that I have ever been to. I have never been in a country where you can just take something.
No, I don't think you can just take something. That would be kind of strange. I don't
No,
know.
what I'm saying is,
No,
it's
I know
not
what you're saying.
because of legislation, you know, oh, everybody, these particular congressmen got together, these particular state legislators got together and decided, hey, let's make a law against stealing. No, we had that law way before we had Congress, legislatures, government. We've always had the law that we're not
It's
allowed to steal.
been around since the beginning of human interaction.
Yes, because it makes sense, because it's necessary, because we couldn't do business with each other if we didn't have a rule like that.
Exactly. I mean, I think most common sense people get that.
Okay, well, I don't know whether they get that because the moment you tell them we don't actually need government, they'll say, oh, yeah, so you don't like any rules, do you? And actually, I'm a very law abiding, rule
You're
abiding
a
person.
very law-abiding person. Yeah, no, definitely so.
So, anyway, that in Theodosia and the Pirates, you know, there is sort of a government put together by Jean Lafitte and run by Jean Lafitte on Galveston Island. He took over there and it belonged to him. And he had people working for him. And there was no elected government. But do you think that it was okay to rape or to steal or to do anything like that there?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Actually, some of the non-elected governments ruled by monarchs or just people that were rulers of their own free will, and they what would be considered a dictator were more humane than I would say maybe our current government in many ways, in my opinion, anyway.
Right. And it's not as if he wasn't ruling by choice because anybody who didn't want to live in Galveston didn't have to live in Galveston. He was not going to make them. They they were not enslaved by him.
No.
Anybody who came there knew what the rules were and agreed to abide by those rules while living in Galveston, knowing that if they didn't like it, they could leave.
Yeah, you're free to leave, and that makes good common sense.
Right. So, if you are listening to this broadcast and you're wondering about just to what extent do we need government, and does government by election, is that the best way? You might consider reading Theodosia and the Pirates, the War Against Spain. This is the second volume of the Theodosia series. It's after the War of 1812. It's after Jean Lafitte rescued the United States in the Battle of New Orleans, and he was repaid by the United States by being told to just go away. So he did, and he founded Galveston. But by the end of this story, they took that away from him too. So anyway, that's a pitch for my book.
Did you want to read part of it at all? I don't know.
Yeah, well, the other day, I was interested in talking about the year without a summer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have a summer this year, though.
We're going to have a summer this year, but I'll tell you what, later we should to that live stream in the future, so it all kind of makes sense so people can look at both.
Yeah, I guess so. Shall I read you a little bit until my voice gets tired?
Yes.
Be okay? Okay.
Sounds good.
So this is the preamble, and it's called The Present, and it's set in 1816. Jules had free run of the deck in good weather and when the ship was docked, and they had been mostly docked in secluded spots along the bayou for several months now, as Papa had gone off inland to explore. Francisco had command of the ship in Papa's absence, but out of deference to Mamma, he did not occupy the captain's cabin, as that is where Mamma and Jules lived. Every once in a while, Francisco would move the ship to another spot, so as not to allow their position to be known, and the small skeletal crew obeyed his orders. But once docked, he spent most of his time in New Orleans, leaving Mamma and Jules and a few sailors on board. "When is Papa coming back?" Jules had asked Mamma every day since the mapping expedition, with Arsène and Papa at its head, had left, and she always replied, "He will return when he is done with his mission." But she looked worried. When Papa left, the sun left with him. Even though it was already summer now, it was unusually cold, and an eerie fog lay over the bayou most days. Even at midday, the sky was never a bright blue, but a tinge of yellow colored the view of the horizon to as far as the eye could see. Of course, one could not see very far with all that fog. The strange weather did not bother Jules much. He had not seen many summers, so he had few expectations, but it seemed to fill Mamma with dread. "I wish your father would hurry home," she said. "I don't like it when it snows in June." "He's going to bring me a present when he comes back," Jules would repeat every time he got the chance. The priest, Père Antoine, came often to call on Mamma when Papa was away, and every time he came, Mamma sent Jules on an errand to go down to the galley and bring her some coffee, or to run down the length of the dock in case Tante Marie and the many cousins had come to call, or to check on the lines to see if any fish had been caught for supper. "This weather is the sign of God's displeasure," Père Antoine said once or twice within earshot of Jules. "He has withheld his light from the world because man has turned away from him." "Really?" Mamma replied, "and I heard it was a conspiracy by the Freemasons intent at cornering the futures market in wheat and pork bellies." "The Freemasons do not control the weather." The priest sounded very certain in his pronouncement. "And neither does the church," said Mamma. "I think it's Papa's doing," Jules suggested. "It happened after he left." Mamma and Père Antoine turned to look at him. "Jules," Mamma said, "what did I tell you to do? There was always something he was supposed to be doing to keep him from hearing what they were talking about. But Jules always hurried back in time to catch the last bits of conversation. He could tell Maman was afraid of Père Antoine, even though he did not know why. The priest did look like death warmed over, with his long famished face and 2 white sideburns that ran on either side of it. His cleric's raiment reminded Jules of a picture of the angel of death he had once seen in a volume on theology at the bookseller's, but Maman had not agreed to buy him that book, so he never found out what it was about. The priest had always been kind to Jules, and Jules thought the priest's voice was quite soft and sweet as he struggled to speak English to Maman when it would have been so much easier in French or Spanish. If he does not return, the priest said, then we will make arrangements to relocate you to a safe haven. Why wouldn't he return? Maman asked. Her voice was steady, but Jules noticed that her fists were clenched. They are overdue, the priest answered smoothly. Perhaps it is nothing. But they were to have sent a messenger back with a report, and we have received no word. If the message was intercepted, then it might be reported to Washington City. What if it is? Maman asked. Of what importance is that? Madame, your husband is a spy for Spain on the frontier between Spanish-held territory and American lands. The Americans would not look kindly on that, and you, if you remain here in American territorial waters, would be charged with treason if caught. Maman laughed. Treason? I don't think so. That's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? You're still an American, are you not? Yes, and a loyal one too. And besides, we have a treaty with Spain. The priest smiled. Of course, but consider your position and your father's position. Papa will bring me a present when he comes home, Jules said. Startled, Maman turned to look at him. Jules, did I not ask you to go down to the end of the quay to wait for Uncle Edward? Uncle Edward, the priest asked. I came back for my silver rattle, Maman. All right, hurry and take it then. When Maman was frightened, she sounded cross. Jules did not hurry. He lingered as if looking for the rattle, which was in plain view on a chest in the corner. Okay.
That was a good, I think it's very good intro and very entertaining. I like it. I mean, I think people should read it.
Thank you. So, yeah, Jules thought that maybe his father had made the sun go away. That makes about as much sense as any of the other theories, right?
I know, it's funny, but I love the part just like where they're saying, "Oh, it's God, it's the free man." Like, there's a lot of humor in that first scene. It's good. Like, you have history, humor, historical characters. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I still have my copy. I'm trying to find where I put it because I'm like, I didn't look at it again.
Well, I don't know if it's timely or not, but when they started talking about the sun going away and going on lockdown, I thought that was funny.
No, it was timely, definitely for that day. I mean, because it's kind of like the winter without summer. And that was really interesting because I have more insight into the story now, and I had not known about that before because I had never read about the winter without summer. So that part of the book makes more sense now. It's interesting when you read the history behind something, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Now I get these references.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the book comes with a question and answer section.
Yeah.
Frequently asked questions. So, and there's also bibliography.
Interesting. So you could like see like different sources and you could read the question and answer section. It's been a bit since I read it though. So.
Yeah. So there are some historical books about all of this, including one by Murray Rothbard about the Panic of 1819.
Interesting. So, I do remember studying about the Panic of 1819 and that's kind of timely in a way, being the centennial of that event, a little past.
A little past, yeah.
It's a
I
little
think I
past.
mentioned that when we were talking to Brian Welch about the economy, um, and he seemed to think that, certain things never happened or whatever, until recently. But I think things were pretty bad in 1819 because um, the payment, a payment came due from the Louisiana Purchase,
Hmm.
and there wasn't money enough to pay it.
Yeah.
And there were all these new corporations, that was a new thing, that were about to go bankrupt because they had overcapitalized, thinking there would always be a market for more and more textile products, and the market dried up.
Yeah, see, that can happen. I mean, well, I think these things have happened throughout history. We just have to go back and examine all the events to see that there have been panics throughout the centuries. It's not new.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I there's such a divide right now among people with the new rules that are being required of us. And one of the problems is that it's one thing if an establishment, you go to the store and they say, I'm sorry, but if you don't put a mask on, we won't let you in. Well, it's their establishment. They
That's
can,
their choice, yeah, if they want
yeah,
to do that. But here's the thing: I don't like it when they say this is a new law. When actually, what it was it was a health ordinance, and then they said the next day, "Well, we legally can't enforce this." But then a lot of people were acting like this is the law, this is the new law, and if you're not following it, you're breaking the law. When that was never true.
right. And then there are other people who say, well, you're not supposed to be wearing the mask for yourself. God forbid that you try to protect yourself. You're supposed to do it out of courtesy for other people. And I really have a problem with this courtesy argument, because I remember, if I didn't want to wear something that was tight and unpleasant when I was a child, the reason I was supposed to wear it was because it was courteous to other people. If I wanted to have long hair and uh, and everybody else had short hair, then it was not courteous of me for everything I did
No,
was not
yeah,
courteous.
that's a big thing now. Like, there's some people like, well, like with the long hair thing. A lot of women would tell other women. I had people say this to me, and I don't care anymore because I can say this freely now, that having long hair was a hazard. That's crazy. I'm sorry, but that's crazy. Who's it a hazard to? Was my hair gonna burn up, blow up into flames? Or
Look, I mean, there are certain places where you could be working on an assembly line where it could get
yeah,
into machinery, but then you would put it up while you were working, right?
yeah, exactly. Like they didn't think you could modify like your hair, or you could just not wear a ball gown to a certain factory. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, what happened to common sense? Like, I don't know, this common sense fly out the window. Well, I guess it has. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, so I just, this whole idea that everything you do to look just like everybody else is a courtesy to other people, it confuses me. I've never understood that argument.
I never really followed it, but now it seems like they're really like all of a sudden they push it, but the people pushing it, they don't even know why. They were just told, well, this is safer and this is better. But then there have been some studies that showed that the face mask wasn't completely effective, and because you're touching your face more, and people are like, no, 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 that's not true. But it's true. You're adjusting it all the time, and every time I shared, like I felt like I couldn't share on my own page anymore. That if you wear it for 40 hours, which my sister does too, that you get a headache and you feel like you're gonna pass out. And now people have to have breaks to go outside and breathe. There's a difference between like, oh, I'm wearing my cute mask to the market once a week, to I'm wearing this 40 to 60 hours a week lifting things. There's a big difference, okay? And people are rude
It's
about it.
terrible that people have to take a break to breathe. They at one point they made it so that smokers had to take a break in order to smoke, but now breathing is like smoking. That is insane.
Yeah, and I found a workaround. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't love the mask or anything, but I'm like, oh, the paper one's lighter and the paper one has a bigger hole here. So I'll just wear that and then nobody can say anything because at least I won't sweat as much. And I don't know, I don't like it, but it's a way that I can just deal with it a bit more. My glasses don't fog up as much, but why do I have to think about all that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I imagine that if you wear a mask that has big holes in it, it's better than one that doesn't, but it also doesn't serve the purpose of the mask, you know?
I don't really care though, because
Yeah, I know. I know. That's why it's becoming a social, it's all about social conditioning.
Yeah.
People don't really seem to care whether your mask is effective, but they want you to wear one to show solidarity with everybody else or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And also too, like, they aren't really researching things. They're just watching the news, or they'll read one news article that says this is the way. But remember, like a couple months ago, they said they weren't effective, and the World Health Organization never changed their mind on that, although they were trying to bully them into compliance to changing their mind on this. So this is what they said, well, we still hold that if you're healthy, you don't need to wear a mask, but we're not going to comment on individual countries or municipalities that enforce that. And that's what they still say.
Right.
That's what they still say. So it never changed. Their epidemiologists still say, if you're a healthy person, not experiencing symptoms, that you don't have to wear a mask. So that is still the stance of the World Health Organization. So I mean, what more do people want?
They want conformity. I really feel that that's what they want. And they're bullying people. And it's just like, wearing clothes. It's not as if all of us would be wearing clothes if we weren't afraid what would happen to us if we didn't wear clothes. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
So pretty soon people would just feel the same thing that, just as a woman, if she goes outside her house and she has no clothes on, she thinks, well, I'm going to be raped or something really bad is going to happen to me. So now people are afraid to leave their house without a mask because they think that is an invitation for somebody to do something bad to them.
It could be in some communities, like if you're outside, you don't have to wear it. It's not the law that they're going to enforce you and ticket you. But I think some people would be worried that somebody might scream at them. I've had people say, like, but people that work 40 hours a week take it off when they walk outside. This is pretty like standard. There's a difference between, oh, I'm wearing my cute mask because I want to feel solidarity once a week when I'm shopping, to I'm working 40 to 60 hours a week wearing this thing in the heat, lifting things. There's a difference.
Sure, of course.
Or if you're typing behind the computer, people still have to take off their glasses because they say it will steam up their face. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that easily say you have to wear a mask all the time, they're not working right now. They're not in the workforce. So it's so easy for them to say it. They don't really care about the workers, They don't, because they think it's fun to enforce this on others.
Well, not everybody feels that way. It's just
not everybody, but the people that are, in fact, a lot of people don't. It's like I said, there's a big silent majority. They're not protesting. They're just going out and living their lives, and they're not going to tell you on Facebook because they don't care to hear, like, some people, I don't know, scold them.
Right, but I mean, it is the pressure. It's just the same pressure. It's kind of the same pressure that I have on me not to wear a fanny pack. I work with Bo. I take my phone with me. I take another phone for a camera. I have some screwdrivers in case something goes wrong with one of the locks. I carry all this stuff with me. It's in a fanny pack. It's not the most fashionable thing, but it works for me.
Yeah. See?
But but there's this whole thing about you're a dweeb if you wear a fanny pack. So
they made a comeback for a bit, and then they kind of, but I think like it goes in cycles. Like they were very popular in the late 80s.
There's just so many things that I can carry in my hands. I bring dishes with food for him, and I take the potty out and all this other stuff. So I can't be carrying everything in my hands.
So, you know, I feel kind of the same way about glasses. Like, okay, like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, like you're wearing glasses. And yes, if I had perfect vision, I wouldn't wear glasses, but I need them to correct my vision. And for years, like everybody would be like, well, you need to get laser eye surgery or wear contacts, not wear glasses. But then recently I was talking to people that were wearing pretend glasses because that was fashionable, which kind of confused me. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I wore contacts for a while, but now that I'm older, if I wore contacts, I would need reading glasses in order to see things close up. So it's so much easier for me to just take off my glasses and look at something close up and then put them on, you know.
Yeah, I totally get it. And there's nothing wrong with contacts. I actually just am freaked out to touch my eyes. That's why I never wore contact lenses, honestly. Like I tried and people got mad at me, but I couldn't touch my eye and you had to sit here at the optometrist for like a half an hour before they would sell them to you and you had to prove you could put them in your eyes. And I was freaking out. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna try. Like it just freaked me out. That so I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I know. I understand. It takes getting used to, but it's not that I wasn't able to wear contacts. I did have some. I do have some for, a special
Yeah,
occasion.
if you want to wear them, you can wear them, right?
Yeah, but most days I don't find that that's helpful for me because I want to look at things close up and then I want to look at things far away and I don't want to take my contacts out 7 times a day and it's so much easier to just take my glasses off.
Technically I can read from here to here, and sometimes I don't wear my glasses because I can't see to about here, but I tend to wear them a lot because if I take them off, I don't know, like, but I think I became more reliant on them because I didn't take them off enough and my vision worsened. But I could be wrong. I'm not an optometrist, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah, well, it's true that if we rely on them, then our vision worsens, but uh, it's not really as if you can keep myopia completely at bay just by not using glasses. That doesn't work either.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like some people in my family, my dad said his vision improved, but I don't completely believe him because he can't pass that DMV test. By the way, there's a DMV test that's very interesting that you have to be able to see to drive, but you can just bring in glasses. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Just,
Uh, some people's vision does improve a little bit as they get older. Their distance vision, as their close-up vision, gets worse.
yeah, deteriorates. That could be what's going on with his vision, I guess.
Right. Yeah. In my case, I have really good close vision. If I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah, I think you're probably far less nearsighted than I am because for me, it's like to hear and then after that, it gets pretty blurry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even have these adjusted very well. So if I lean over like this, they fall down. So that happens several times a day because I do physical work taking care of the animals, and I do have to lean over and get something. And
Makes it tricky. Yeah. So can you imagine, like, let's say somebody had to wear a mask taking care of Bo, like that would be horrible. Like,
no, Bo wouldn't let them keep the mask on. I mean, he
but
would.
I'm just wondering, like, where does the mask in? Then, like, sometimes I see people wearing the dogs. I'm like, are they gonna pass an ordinance saying that the dogs need to wear a mask? That's like that's where my mind went. I'm just like, oh well, the dog's walking down the street, breathing everything. Like, I don't know. What are you gonna? What are you gonna?
Yeah, no, dogs don't sweat, so they hyperventilate in order to air themselves out. So it would be terrible to put a mask on them.
Oh no, definitely. But I don't know where people's minds are going with this. I guess it was kind of just a humorous thought that popped up in my mind. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I think all of this is crazy, and it's crazy to put them on babies or even 2-year-olds. And
it makes no sense. And the kid is like always playing with it, and I'm like, oh well, there you go. Now they're really touching their face, but they have a mask on, so you feel better.
Now, the problem is that people are so angry with other people that, that and their idea of law and order is somehow coming into all of this. We're going to make you do what we want you to do.
It's a certain brand, I think, of law and order because, okay, I hate to say it, it tends, I mean, I know there's some Republican people too, they're very pro-mask, but it tends to run in kind of the Democratic circles. I hate to say it. But these are the same people a few years back. They'd be like, well, George Bush lied to us, weapons of mass destruction. We shouldn't always trust the government. But now I'll hear some of the same people say, oh, well, they put out a health recommendation, so everybody should wear the mask. And they could never be wrong, ever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which goes back to the idea that we might have discussed in our previous conversation, that science has become a religion for these people. I mean, they use the word science, but they have some kind of religious faith in every decree that comes down from the CDC or somebody in government.
Whoever, it gives but a lot of these are just educated guesses. They keep finding out new things all the time. Like I would, just my educated guess that a lot of it's going to change yet again, and then I don't think any of it's gospel.
No, definitely not. Well, I think I have to put my chickens and ducks to sleep because the sun is coming down, but I really enjoyed the conversation. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have some comments about the difference between law and order and anarchy.
Yeah, it would be really good to know people's reactions. And I think there are some people that are getting tired of all this friction and anger, and they would like to hear some balanced comments like what you were sharing about how these were rules of law long before the government came in and instituted these things. So you made some very good points, Aya.
Well, thank you. And for those people who are looking for a good summer read, possibly on the beach, they could read all about Jean Lafitte and Theodosia in Galveston. And it's called The War Against Spain.
Great.
Well, I hope you have a nice evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.